we're working. It's been a very busy day in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, as St. Kitts and Nevis turns 39. Of course, it coincided with the funeral service for Britain's longest-serving monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. After service at Westminster Abbey today, she went to her final resting place at Windsor. We're putting politics on the back burner tonight because we think that there comes a time in the tide of men when we have to look at the state of our union, the state of our nation. And with us tonight, very special guest. She hasn't been here for a while, and I know she's anxious, very eager to get going. It's the deputy leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, Cleone Stapleton Simmons. Of course, she's a representative for Nevis 5 in the Nevis Island Assembly. Good evening, Cleone. I know it's been a very busy day. Everybody is in holiday mood, but you've decided to come here and put in the time. Good evening.
Good evening, Steve. Thank you so much for having me in studio this evening. Good evening to our listening and viewing audience. It's such a pleasure to be here in studio with you this evening on Your Voice with the Nevis Reformation Party. I wish to say happy independence to all citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis. It's Independence 39, Steve, and so we are so happy that we have reached this milestone since we have decided to really free ourselves from colonialism, and it's really momentous occasion. And so I'm quite happy that on this holiday, when most folks are home enjoying their independence holiday, we are able to be here in studio to talk to the good people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
And of course, one of the activities for the commemoration was a day for each color in the national flag, and you're sporting your green tonight. And I'm using black as a symbol of our struggles from colonialism to slavery to independence, and who knows where we're going next. So it's been a very busy period for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Have you been taking in the independence activities?
Oh yes, I have been. I actually attended the traditional parade and the ceremony this morning at Grove Park, and so as usual, I was happy to see the students from the different respective schools, the primary school, the secondary school, as well as even the sixth form, as well as the other uniform bodies who were able to partake in the parade this morning. I noticed that, the participation could have been a bit, better, but we understand due to COVID, we have not really had a parade in a very long time. And so, with the storm and everything, I think that might have hampered the organization a bit. Nevertheless, we were happy that we were able to be outside and to have this parade, and it was quite a spectacle. I think everyone really enjoyed themselves, and so I'm happy that we were able to celebrate Independence 39 in this way.
And yesterday, you were in St. Kitts?
Oh yes, yesterday I attended the state service in St. Kitts, and once again, that was it was a good experience. I think it was my first time attending the state's service in St. Kitts. I know last year it was in Nevis, and so I was quite happy to represent both Nevis as well as the Nevis Reformation Party at that very special service.
Okay, and I think we could congratulate Prime Minister Terence Dew. It's his first independence as Prime Minister, of course, the fourth Prime Minister of St. Christopher and Nevis. As I said at the top of the show, it's coincidental that the monarch of England, Queen Elizabeth II, was laid to rest on our independence commemoration. What did you make of that?
Certainly, it's certainly coincidental, and I think, for me, and perhaps for most persons in our lifetime, we have only known Queen Elizabeth as the monarch there in England. And so I had the opportunity to watch a bit of the funeral before I attended the celebrations there at Grove Park. And so it was somewhat bittersweet in a sense when you look at the extent and the gravity of it, because here it is, you witness something so momentous, which is basically a change in the monarchy. You know, all we ever know was having a queen, Queen Elizabeth, and now we have a king, and so it's a bit of a transition, and you know, it's really telling when you look at the Queen and her service, her love for people, her dedication. I remember looking at one of the reports, and the presenter stated that she took time out to ensure that she knew everyone who she met, she knew their names. She tried to register people's names so that she can have that personal touch with them. And I think that is very, very important. It speaks towards her humility and her ability to really connect with ordinary people. And I think that she would definitely be missed. And so it was indeed a historic moment to see persons from the different Commonwealth countries as well as other countries being able to go to the funeral to show their final respect to the Queen.
Now, next year, 2024, marks 400 years of colonialism for neighboring or sister island of St. Kitts. And 2028 will also mark 400 years for Nevis, colonized in 1628. It's been a long haul. And of course, I'm no fan of colonialism.
Neither am I.
No fan of the monarchy. But you have to give it to the British. They are the kings of pomp and pageantry. I mean, I was glued to my television set since she passed on September 8th. I know there are some people, Al Jazeera carried a story tonight, people in the northeast of England who are really struggling. Inflation has taken hold, and they are saying that too much money was spent on the funeral, whereas that could be used to ease the squeeze for people in England. But say what you want about the monarchy, there can be no doubt that the Queen has been probably the most consequential female in our lifetime. She today had 500 world leaders, people from Europe, Africa, and of course including our Foreign Affairs Minister, former Prime Minister Denzel Douglas. So there is no one can say too many bad things about Queen Elizabeth II, and she indeed got a very good send-off today, and history has turned very slowly. As you said, we now have a king, and people who are so inclined will have to get used to him, but I think it's time for us to move on. Now, let me ask you though, were you born pre-independence or post-independence?
I was actually born the year of independence.
Wow, you're an independence baby.
Yeah, I am. 1983. And so it's symbolic in a sense that, you know, I was born in the year of transition, so to speak. Yes, and so it really tells a story, because I perhaps do not know from personal experience what it was like pre-independence. You know, I would have studied it in history, read many books, heard many stories, but to actually have that experience, I cannot say that I have. And so independence for me, it's really a transitional thing, and I'm so happy for the theme for this year, independence, which really is refocus, recreate, redesign independence 39. It has been 39 years of trying to transform St. Kitts and Nevis to really make it a better place. I don't think we're quite there yet, but I think we have made some giant steps. Looking at where we're coming from pre-independence and looking at what we have today, you can see that there really has been efforts made to transform St. Kitts and Nevis into an independent state. And so we wish to continue along that path, where we can become really self-sustained, self-reliant nation. And I think that has to be the ambition, that has to be the goal. I think once we are equipped, we made the decision 39 years ago to go independent. And so we just have to continue along that path, continue going forward and never look back. But at the same time, we have to be mindful that we set the tone to ensure that what our ancestors would have fought for, and that is independence, that it can never be seen as trivial. It must be something that should be able to resonate with us. It must be something that inspires us and motivates us to really want to do better and to give better of ourselves to our country. And so I think all of those thoughts came to me today when I look at 39 years. Like I said, it really marks my birth date, and it is inspiring to me. I would love to see more persons who were born in the year of 1983 really be active in their country's development, be active in being an advocate for change and an advocate for development. And I think it perhaps, it should really start with us, with that particular generation.
Independence babies.
Yes.
Well, it's 12 minutes to 9, and we're discussing national issues, the state of our union. Where should St. Kitts and Nevis go? Whither St. Kitts and Nevis? Now, Prime Minister Jew gave the first hint today in his national address. Said something similar to what you said, that we're not where we want to be. We have places to go. And suggesting that as we approach the 40th anniversary, we should be thinking of going to a republic. Of course, it is something which Dominica did on independence in 1978, which Trinidad did in 1976 after moving to independence in 1962, and which Barbados recently, November 30th last year, moved to a republic. Is that something you would like to see?
To be honest, Steve, I have not really put a lot of thought to it. I know what a difference it can make, but whether it is something I would like to see for the 40th anniversary of independence, I am not certain. I would like to think about that a little bit more.
But certainly it's something for us to discuss. And of course, the discussion can start here. Join us, 469-1616, 469-1700, whether you're in Nevis or in St. Kitts. Tell us your assessment of the state of our union at 39 and where you would like to see it go. Now, most certainly, Dr. Jew said today that he has 3 women in his cabinet.
Yeah, if I can just interject before you go on to that point, Steve, because many times it's well and good to talk about, becoming a republic state. But at the same time, we have some issues here in St. Kitts and Nevis that before we can even venture to that particular avenue, we have to address them. And one such thing really is constitutional reform. And so if we're going to do this, then I think we have to do it properly. We have to have all hands on deck, and we have to really coin a path as to where we really want to go as an independent nation. So it cannot be all, a
piecemeal sort of thing. It has to be
for the
wholesale.
sake, okay, let's just do this because other people are doing it.
I suspect it's going to be a very busy night. It's Independence Night, and we're talking the national health and wealth. Good evening, caller. You're a first caller on Independence Night.
Good evening, Steve.
Hi, good evening. Could you raise your voice?
Okay, good evening, Steve. I hope you're hearing me better now.
You can go a little higher still.
Good. I'm reflecting on our history and our relationship with Britain and how we have literally financed the monarchy over the years, ever since Thomas Warner created a settlement in St. Kitts in 1628. And I looked at the examples, you just listed a few examples of Caribbean countries that have literally abandoned the relationship with the monarchy. I think all of us should. I see no reason why we cannot have a local head of state. Antigua, Jamaica, and the Bahamas have already met with the king, with King Charles III. And yes, Dr. Drees is a new prime minister, but somewhere in his psychic, somewhere in his assembly or in his inner circle, we should be looking towards getting rid of the monarchy. Those folks are the richest in the world. And where did the money come from? From the colonies, of course. That's where the money came from.
That's well documented. I'm looking at all those fine structures, those buildings in England, and same thing going through my mind. But don't you think
go ahead.
Don't you think that Cleone is right, though, because of the peculiar situation in St. Kitts and Nevis, that rather than going full pelt in search of a republic, that there are some constitutional matters which need to be reformed?
Sorry for the outburst in interrupting you. Yes, no question. Back in 1983, when we got independence, Steve, when a well-placed relative of mine called me where I was living at the time and said to me, oh yes, independence, we got our own government, we need to get its own government. My immediate question was, has St. Kitts gotten a local government? I said, no. I said, we're having problems. We're having problems. And the example I said, for instance, no government on Church Street should be determining who gets electricity in Kian, who gets water in Sandy Point, that kind of stuff. Those are local matters. When each state, because you look at the United States, the world's most renowned federation, each of the 50 states has its own local government. All right? And then they come together with some equal representation in the Senate. Each state, irrespective of size and population, what have you, each state has 2 senators in the Senate. And I see no reason why we cannot use that type of example, if you will, to break with Britain, reform our constitution, and have some form of equalization among St. Kitts and Nevis. It must not be based on population size. People move all over the place every day. It has to be based on some equilateral situation where both St. Kitts and Nevis have equal representation at the top level. Barring that, we're going to continue to have problems. We need to revamp the constitution that the Palm administration negotiated back in '83. We got to get rid of it. There's no part in any modern constitution where one of the states has the authority to destroy the country.
Yep.
It was ridiculous. For Nevis to get its own government, and St. Kitts didn't get one, that was ridiculous. It was dumb. It was just wrong. Okay? As we speak, Nevis has the right and the authority to destroy the country. That is nonsense. So yes, let me just, wind down because I get worked up over these kind of things. we need to look at our constitution, literally destroy it. Destroy not be a strong term, but literally it needs to be replaced.
Yes.
And both islands must have some equilateral relationship. What we have now, St. Kitts Islands is about almost 3 times the representation as needed, which is dumb. The federal government should only be responsible for international and inter-island matters. That's it. International and inter-island. All right?
Yes.
Or ports, or post office. or that kind of stuff, be a person, what have you. But as far as local services are concerned, those should be the responsibility of a local administration. So let me just pause here for a minute. I'll allow you to continue your discussion.
Thank you very much. And I couldn't agree with you more. I've heard people say that it depends on who's working the Constitution. We've been through 93, we've been through 2020. Nobody is going to convince me that the Constitution is not flawed. And you're absolutely right, Leon, that this must be part, the evolution of St. Kitts Nevis must be part of a greater constitutional reform. We've got another caller on what will be a very busy evening. Good evening, caller.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good
Happy
evening.
Independence.
Happy Independence to you too.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, may God bless the country.
Yes, we need it.
Yeah, we do. Now, this concept of the Constitution being flawed is not correct, you know. And for Miss Simmons, I don't know why Nevis don't take the thing, the players. They are the ones who decided what went in there.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Bratter, you recall, maybe Mr. Manners might recall. Mr. Bratter wanted to take the country into independence, you recall?
Yes.
And Mr. Daniel, NRP should be taking credit. NRP is the party that decided when we go, if we go, and what should be in the Constitution. Am I incorrect?
Yes, I agree with you because we were coming from...
Oh, and like Mr. Lady said, Pam. And ma'am, if it was Pam alone, you wouldn't have one tracer in there.
Well, it was both of them.
I know, but...
And we have to look at it in terms of the historical background where we were coming from.
They're not going with Mr. Bratter.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever constitution he had, because they felt that it was not in their favor.
Mm-hmm.
So NRP should be taking credit, a lot more credit, because what Mr. Daniel did, we're looking back now, right?
Yes.
When you're looking back, you say, oh, well, it couldn't have, and that shouldn't have been. But if you examine the situation at the time, we were still fighting to get his fair share, if you want to call it so.
Mm-hmm.
But we overlook that. A lot of the things in the Constitution, if they wanted them to be changed, they would have been changed long time.
So you don't think that
Nobody fool you.
the politicians don't want to change them?
I have no intention to. I'll tell you why. You know, in 1997, there was a constitutional review.
Yes, I know, the Fred Phillips.
All right. Don't you think that would have been more important in deciding what we should change?
Well, I think what has happened is that we do reviews and then people get into government, they settle into the norm,
I have no intention.
and it's only when we hit a constitutional crisis that people say,
That doesn't favor them.
mm-hmm.
You must talk the things. There's some, look, you remember the one about the lion clause?
Yes, I remember that.
There was a big issue, and for 20 years I sat down in there, not an inch out of it.
But don't you think that should change? That was something which needed to be changed?
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. Given the small size of our country, and the proportion of, especially now it's even worse now, the proportion of foreigners we have,
Mm-hmm.
we could easily be maneuvered out of power. Our people, just like in the USA. In the USA, you have to be born in the USA to become the president, to become anything else other than that. So we have got to secure a place for our citizens. Imagine all of the economic citizens come home. We find ourselves standing up on the sidewalk watching people vote and people winning seats and ruling us.
Mm-hmm.
So why this sound absurd, you know? Now, the thing about what we want, you see, the hesitation is what just keep we waiting until everybody done do it. You know, we actually went into association almost last.
We were the last.
Eh?
We were the last.
Last. We like to pull back, keep back, hesitant. You have to be able to take a risk. And why it should not be? In fact, all of these, Her Majesty and royalties, we are the ones paying for it. Are you aware of it?
Tell us.
They pay the governor's salary and everything. His upkeep, the Queen doesn't, you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Are you aware of that?
Yes, I know.
The Queen doesn't support anything down here. We are on our own. So all I am saying, we have to make up our mind and do what we have to do. I mean, Sean said if they win, they were going to do it. I mean, the Prime Minister says, but people are hesitant. What are we waiting for? We're not going to get anything what we didn't get before. When we were made independent, they didn't even say, give us enough. Say, well, for all the hard work you all do, and the size of your country will give you this amount to carry for 5, 6, 7 years. We barely got anything. And the Queen, may her soul rest in peace. She has refused to acknowledge her part in what was done to black people, all in Kenya.
Mau Rebellion.
Yeah, I mean, I heard a video about it. The atrocities, they supported South Africa, the apartheid, Rhodesia. You recall all of those?
Mm-hmm.
She was the nicest sitting down. And she has stubbornly refused to apologize for the enslavement of African people. So there are many people, to tell you the truth, who feel sorry for her, you know. There are many black people who really, you know, no disrespect, eh?
Mm-hmm. You understand.
But when you think that somebody who took part in the oppression, we asked for reparation, and she said no. Like, would you be sorry for somebody like that?
Well, she's gone. It's not a matter of being sorry for.
I know, but when you think back on what she tolerated and silently supported, I mean, she was a person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, Charles going to carry on the tradition. He half a thing. They have to acknowledge that we built up Brixton and all of those ports and so. The industrial revolution was done on the back of black people.
Exactly.
You know, so may her soul rest in peace.
So are you?
We should get going. What are we waiting for?
So you think we should become a republic?
Man, tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning.
Because the person is going to do the same thing that the Governor General is doing. You just got to know. You're not going to do anything else. They're not doing anything different unless we are going to vote. If you're going to vote for the president, it's a different ball game.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, do you think we should vote or should they be chosen?
The
president, if we decide to go, should we vote? In Barbados, it was done in the house, you know.
Yeah. Well, the same person who was the representative of the Queen, Dame Mason, she became the president.
That is the route I think we should take.
Mm-hmm.
And done with all this other noise and confusion. Because the same thing they're going to do. All right then.
Thank you, caller.
I'll keep listening.
Quite interesting.
And happy independence to all of my relatives over in Nevis and all of St. Kitts.
Okay, same from this side of the Narrows. Cleon, I don't know if I've missed a press release. I think we've got another caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome to this special edition on Independence Night. Hello, caller. Caller, I think you're listening to your computer or the radio. Could you turn it down, please?
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes, I was doing some reading ever since the Queen died. And every cricket lover would be familiar with the names of just about all the major cricket grounds in England.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who owns the Oval and has been the owner for years? The present king. Prince Charles is who owned the Oval Stadium and all the other castles and palaces that they own. And the more you think about it, the more you get upset. When you look at the Queen's crown and all the diamonds in it, research shows that England doesn't have a diamond mine. So where the diamonds came from?
Africa.
Exactly. The diamonds came from Africa. So I would not mourn the Queen's death. I would not.
No, we're not mourning. We're trying to see how we can move forward.
Well, this is it. And, okay, I'm sorry. But the original point of becoming a Republican and cutting ties with Buckingham Palace, I support it 100%. Let us have a local, one, we need constitutional reforms. And the caller before me made a point that you cannot vote in the U.S. except if you're a citizen, number one, and two, you cannot contest the highest seat in the country except you are born in the country. You can't be born in the U.S. territory like the Virgin Islands and contest the president's office.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be born in one of the 50 states. Okay?
Yeah.
And it matters not to me who says I don't like foreigners. It's ridiculous. It's dumb. It's nonsense. I've lived in several foreign countries. Okay? We need to carve out something for ourselves. All right? And the point I want to end with is that until we can come together and value Nevis's heritage and Nevis's birthplace, we can find ourselves maybe 1-2 generations from now, I may not be around, with nothing. Okay? We're going to find ourselves with someone else telling us or telling our children or grandchildren where we could walk, where we could sit. Okay? Watch out. Mr. Manners, thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Cleon, I don't know if you can bring any clarity to this. I was trying to raise it before the caller. The previous caller mentioned the Deputy Governor, the Governor General, who is, of course, the representative of the Queen. I don't know if I missed the press release, but I saw one which said that Marcella Liebert had been appointed Deputy Governor General. I thought at first that maybe the Governor General was headed off to Buckingham to visit the Queen, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Are you clear on what is happening over there? I know I saw at the ceremonial parade on television this morning, but she's the Deputy Governor General.
Yes. Yes, she is.
Or the Governor General's deputy.
Yes.
I'm mixing it up with the Nevis situation, yeah.
Yes. Well, the Governor General in St. Kitts always had a deputy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last person who served in that capacity was Mr. Michael Morton.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened, what would have transitioned is that you just have a new appointment for that position.
But she took the salute, I imagine, at the ceremonial parade this morning. So is it that the Governor General is incapacitated, out of state? That's not clear in my mind.
I am not certain, but I suppose in the absence of the Governor General, then the deputy would always act in that particular capacity. So I don't know. I cannot speak. I don't know the facts. I don't know if the Governor General is ill. What I know is that she was appointed as a deputy, and I know in the event that the Governor General is unable to act, or he's unavailable, so let me say unavailable to act, then the deputy would always, take that position.
Okay, we can await some clarity on that. We've got another caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome to our special.
Megan, you know what was surprising? Today somebody told me they did not know. I said, Ailita Liebert, is Ailita name is?
Yes, Ailita.
I tell you that is the deputy governor. Person told me did not know. I said, Marcella is not the deputy governor. She's deputy to the governor down here.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I don't think people. This is a teacher,
Yeah, they're the Deputy Governor General for Nevis.
Nevis is the deputy governor.
Mm-hmm.
Marcella is deputy to the governor in case he's incapacitated or anything, or if he travels,
Yeah, but what are you hearing? What is the present state?
Keep it well local, but you remember also, that the government just can't move him, You know that?
Yeah, well, he's a representative of the Queen.
Right, so they have to address the matter. And right now, the crown is mourning.
Yeah.
So any kind of move will have to wait after, well, maybe after today or whatever.
Okay.
So it isn't like you say, well, all who are appointed by thing go. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, it's a process.
If you remember, Sir Probin Innes, he work across two governments, you know.
Yes.
So it is like who appoint you, and they cannot just turn them away.
I
So
understand.
until that matter is settled, but he has not been keeping well. And then they said also that in terms, since we represent the Queen, and they were having the funeral, that was one of the reasons given. So he couldn't be taking part in the celebration while his Queen was going to be buried today.
Oh, I see.
But it's good. It is good that you have a lady in that position. But I think a lot of people confused.
Yeah.
They say, Marcel is the deputy. Tell them, no, darling. The deputy governor is in Nevis. I tell you, sometimes y'all don't play yourself, you know.
Well, one thing is clear. We have to do a lot more discussion on the way systems work, how government works, and of course, knowing our constitution.
Because, I mean, the person tell me, I said, Mommy, I said, yeah. I said, there has always been the man, Mr. Paris was there.
Western Paris,
Then John,
Eustace John.
and now Hailita. You know?
There was Marjorie
They
Morton
did not
as well.
know.
Yes.
Too many kids don't think Nevis is a foreign land, you know? They don't know what going on over there, what place they feel. And to me, I put the blame on Nevis. You got to be more assertive and state your positions.
We're trying to be. Thank you very much. Dr. Jude today also mentioned Marcella. And that must be something positive for women folk. He has 3 members, females in his cabinet. And it seems as if the new Governor General will be a female as well. Women taking greater standing in our federation.
Certainly, Steve. I just wish to congratulate Her Honor, Marcella Liebert, on that new appointment. I think it was fitting, timely, and so, you know, like you said, it's nice to see females really being considered and being appointed to this position, trying to create that balance that is so needed. But at the end of the day, we have to always remember that, you know, women have been in politics and in leadership figures for many years. Okay, I mean, symbolic, look at the Queen. And so, you know, she would have taken after the death of King George, was it? I stand to be corrected if that wasn't so. A little bit rusty on my history. Is that so, Steve?
I'm trying. I'm not steeped
I'm not sure
in,
whether
but I think it was
George or Victoria.
No. She was in Kenya when she found out that her father had died.
Yes.
I can't remember if it's George the 4th or 5th.
Yes.
But her father died at age 52, and she ascended to the throne at age 25. Had to come back from Kenya.
Yes. And so I'm just simply saying that, you know, Her Honor Marcella Liebert, she would have served as a parliamentarian for many years.
Deputy Speaker.
And so now she's now transitioning into this role as the deputy to the Governor General. And it's important to make that distinction, because it can be a bit confusing. No fault of, you know, any particular person or body, as the last caller perhaps would have alluded. But it can be, you know, if you don't understand the structure of governance, and that is why it is important, even before we have decisions and discussions about moving into a republic, because a republic is not just a thing. There are many different types of republic, and you have to look to see what structure really best suits the style of government that you really want, okay? Because you can have different types of republics. And so whilst we entertain the discussion, like I said, it is important for us. It's a process, okay? Everything is a process. You have to look, you have to understand your own structure that you have presently. You have to understand your own constitution and why it was designed the way it was designed. I think some people may comment and say that the authors of the constitution, they would have made some mistake. I heard some people even go to the extent of saying that the Constitution, it's worthless, it doesn't serve any purpose. But I think you have to be a student of the Constitution in order to understand what was the thinking and the intention of the lawmakers at that time. I recall when I was in law school, I believe it was in England, and I studied constitutional law, and one of the model constitution that was used was the St. Christopher Nevis Constitution. And I was surprised. And I remember my professor saying that the St. Christopher and Nevis Constitution is perhaps the most unique constitution in the world. That's actually what it said. And of course, it's because of clause 113. Because that particular entrenched clause gave Nevis a peculiar set of power that you can use it perhaps at any time once there were certain conditions. And sometimes I think we don't really understand it, and it is no fault of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, because I always say and I always advocate for this: we are not taught our history in school. And that is the crux of the problem. Imagine I had to go all the way to England to learn about my own constitution.
Yeah.
And so greater efforts are needed in order to teach about the Constitution, teach about the structure, teach about St. Kitts and Nevis history. It's well and good for our students to learn about Caribs and Arawaks and, slavery
Bacon,
and all of those
Hawkins.
things. Yes, and Columbus and what have you. But we have to start looking at teaching our own, because that is how you would understand it. That is how you would have an appreciation for it. And so at present, we don't have an appreciation. We don't have an understanding. Yes, Sylvie, the last caller, may say she was surprised that a teacher would have advocated or asked that particular question. But the thing is, if no one ever taught you, then how would you learn if you were not taught? If I have been through the school system in Nevis, from preschool right up to sixth form, and I was never taught these things. You do a little bit in social studies and perhaps if you take social studies at the CSEC level, but it's a little bit. It is not enough. More time is spent teaching about Caribs and Arabs and Columbus and all those other people, and not necessarily your own history. Okay, we know very little about our national heroes. We know them in passing, like we know their names, their date of birth, when they served, but in terms of actually knowing their contributions towards the development of St. Kitts and Nevis, you're not really taught that in any great detail. I mean, you spend at least six to 7 years at your secondary school education, from first form to fifth form, that's 5, and then if you do go on to sixth form at the Nevis sixth form, that's giving you a total of 7 years. And you may very well, and perhaps even in these times more, when history is no longer a compulsory subject, and even if it was, the curriculum really does not expose you to the information that you need, that is relevant for you to be able to be molded and shaped to become a citizen in this country. And so where do you get that? Where do you get that information? How do you understand these things? Some of us may perhaps would have been privileged enough. Maybe we studied history. Maybe we are lawyers. We were exposed to law. Maybe we have the experience, or we have someone who really could tell us the history or the stories, but not many, very few people. And so this is why when I say, if we are going to change our entire government structure and system, it has to be designed in such a way where it is purposeful. It must be purposeful. Okay, so we have to look at all of these things. We have to look at our education, and that is why I always advocate, and I say this not only as a representative of the Nevis Reformation Party, not only as a parliamentarian, but also as a Nevisian. in order for governance to make sense, we have to look at it holistically. Okay, it is important. You cannot just look at one aspect. So you can be here doing everything you can to push education. But if it is that you are pushing education that would more reflect an American society, then it would defeat the purpose if you're over here trying to get to an independent thinking state. The two may very well may not connect, and we have seen that. And so that is why when you're looking at governance, when you're looking at the structure, you have to, first of all, you have to be purposeful. You have to look at the whole thing. Everything must be interconnected. If it is not interconnected, then it wouldn't make sense, and then you're going to have gaps within the government structure, and gaps even within your economy. Everything has to tie in. Do we have a caller?
Yes, we've got another caller on the line. Good evening. Welcome to our Independence Edition.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I have a question for the Honorable Cleon Stapleton Simmons. She made an excellent point and brought a very important issue to the fore about the absence of local history. Yes, we all went through the education system here, and she was right. We were taught foreign history until I think about third form in high school. I was being taught European history, and then thereafter, as she said, we were being taught about the Caribs and the Arawaks and Columbus and all the others who came over from Europe. But nowhere in the curriculum of our schools are we being taught about the local leaders. I want to go back to 1962 when we had the West Indies Federation. Leaders like Eric Williams, Norman Manley, Robert Bradshaw, Vere Bird, and the list goes on. How much do we know about these leaders, these excellent men who led the Caribbean out of the plantation system? We don't. So my question then to the Honorable Cleo Simmons, when you win, I'm not going to say if, but when your party wins, and let us suppose you are asked to serve in the Ministry of Education, or if you are not, you get into cabinet and the school curriculum is being discussed. Could you share with us what changes would like to be implemented to ensure that our students are taught local history? I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you so much, caller. For me, because as you perhaps know, or maybe you don't know, but I have done some teaching in my time. I am a trained graduate teacher, and so I would have had the opportunity to look at the curriculums, both primary school and secondary school, on many occasions. I think one of the things that is really lacking is the fact that I always, and this is just my personal view looking at it, I think history is important. Many persons don't think that way, and students perhaps would not agree with me because they don't like to read. But I remember in my day, up until fifth form, history was compulsory, but like I said, the focus was really on foreign history. I think one of the changes that I would like to see in the curriculum is really to make history a compulsory subject again, but to have that focus on local history. I think it is important for students to understand their local history, their government structure, the contributions that persons would have made for them, the state that we are in, where we're coming from, because you can only know that if you are exposed to it. You can only have a greater appreciation for where you're going, where you want to go. You can only recreate, refocus, and redesign. In order to do that, and we're using the prefix re or re, which simply means to do something again. Okay, so in order to do something again, it means that you would have had to done it before. So you must understand it. You must understand what exists in order to reshape. You can't transform something if you don't know what it is. It really doesn't make sense. And so that is why this particular theme is so fitting. In order for you to recreate, it means something was created already, but it's perhaps not working for you. In order for you to redesign, something has been designed, it has been there, it's not working, so you have to reassess it. And then you have to now make it work for you. And history now, with a new federal government, is giving us the opportunity to do so. Okay? It's giving us the opportunity to go back to the drawing board. And I'm not sure how many persons would have had the opportunity to listen to my independence address. But that really was the theme. Being able to look at where we are. We know we need to go forward, and so we have to put some plans in place. We have to shift things a little. We have to go back to the drawing board. And so that is why it is so important for us to understand where we're coming from, where we are at, and where we want to go. So that is one of the changes that I would make in the curriculum. The second change that I would make, I think we need to go back to teaching civics. Basic civics and just moral concepts. I think that is something that is lacking. We have a caller?
I think we've got another caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Welcome to our Independence Edition.
Sorry to be interrupting your program.
No, you're not interrupting. You're sharing vital information.
Yes, because what I am here thinking, there are truth and reconciliation.
Yes.
Well, there has got to be one between St. Kitts and Nevis. You hear me? Our association has always been contentious. Always been contentious. And it doesn't make any sense to try to step over it. It would always come up. That is why 113 is there. As I said before, the Queen don't want to apologize for what she did or what she took part or what she assented to. The same thing between St. Kitts and Nevis. You ask about the leaders. Why you think that every time the matter come up about our national heroes, it has to be confusion? One will say this one do, and that one do, and the other one did not do.
But isn't that because all our national heroes are politicians, all five?
Yes, and our politics has always been, I'm trying to find a nice word, we conflict.
Contentious.
I mean, that is how we do around here, Somebody's always the enemy. We're not opposition parties having different points of view. We're over here, and our job is to obliterate you, So, but there are certain things you asked about, because I was trying to explain to the person today. They said they did not even know we had associated states. I was born in 1980. You understand me?
Yeah.
And I'm trying. Oh, she said, well, I'm good. I said, well, darling, people will, if you're in a house of contention, you will move out and go with somebody else. So until we come to a point where each side acknowledges the right and the wrong and apologize for it, we're not going to get any closer. And this thing, the Constitution was online. And I recall on WinFM, I don't know if Mr. Manners recall, Dr. Warner. You remember him?
Yes. He used to do a show there.
On the Constitution?
Yeah.
And then when he died, Tapley Seaton, the now present Governor General, came in and continued the whole Constitution, That is why I say sometimes WinFM should play back. I don't know if the family would object, in the voice. But because he taught government at UWI, down at the center. And it was, the Constitution is on the website. I think it might be back up there now. We now have all of the laws online. And people still say, no, I don't know this and I don't know that. You put the information out, but everybody wants somebody to give it to them. So they really shouldn't be. And this thing about teaching local history. When I went in Jamaica, according to most of the people who write the exam thing, it's only Jamaica, Trinidad, and Barbados exist, You know that?
Yeah.
They asked the questions around it. I had to protest one time in university. I said, hello, I'm not a Jamaican. Never live in Jamaica. Please, Every question they give you, I did economics, but I wanted to be a lawyer. Every question about Jamaica, it's the same thing. So if you spend too long teaching, I believe our local history should be taught in primary school. Say from grade 4, come up. Because once you reach in the high school, you're aiming for CXC exam. And I don't know if anybody searched the paper lately to see if any question on St. Kitts or the Leeward Islands on it. You can hear about the this, that, the rebellion in Jamaica, as if we don't exist. So if you're spending all that time, they put in the children at disadvantage. Start early and start truthfully. Because everybody exaggerating what they did. We're not getting anywhere. So I think we need a truth and reconciliation session where each party got all the heroes of a party behind them,
Yes.
Acknowledge the Queen gone without acknowledging what she did to us. The same thing, that is why there's still a lot of resentment. You have look at what was to happen on Friday, which I think was ridiculous. Trying to party instead of bringing the people together. You will leave the national heroes having the 5 people, Dr. Simmons. You got the statue of the 5 of them in there. Shouldn't you honor those first? No, we're going down to St. Paul's to honor Mr. Bracha. And then in the afternoon, the official one going to be in St. Paul's. And in the afternoon now, you're going to be laying wheat in the national. I said, how divisive could that be? Because from the time you mentioned Mr. Bracha name, you want to start.
I want you to help us, scholar, to clarify something here, because you spoke about the contentious relationship
between the
islands. As simple as it may sound, there's some rumblings on the ground here in Nevis, because 19 persons were named in the Independence Awards.
I pointed it out to somebody.
One division, and we want to congratulate Laurie Brown.
I pointed it out.
Well, we don't know. What we don't know, and we could do with some clarification, were there lapse on the Nevis side in that they didn't make recommendations?
If anybody could make, it don't have to be the government.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Could it be that Nevis...
But in that case, listen to me. Because you see, I tell you, we don't think. Because it's full of labor people. Now what I'm saying, you look at the entries, right? And you realize you don't call over Nevis and say, look, you'll try and send some. I said, what's going on here? And then they only had 15 people got CS Star of Merit.
19.
19 all, right?
I think it was 19 in one category and 3 in another.
I never know how many days here so many people up there. And there must be 3 down below. And I said, well, what happened? I said, well, maybe Nevis going to have to get their own. It was shameful. And then when you know that a lot of them up there are big agitators, strong supporters, and Nevis, you see how they're pushing 113? They're pushing it now. That is why I say we need truth and reconciliation. Otherwise, you could revive all the Constitution. 113 not coming out. Would you like it to come out, Miss? I'm asking Miss Cleon.
Yes, would I like 113 to come out? Sorry?
Yeah, that's the question.
To come out of the Constitution, you mean? No, I don't. I think 113 was there for...
113 is the only security Nevis having this federation.
Certainly.
And that's a fact, And you spoke about not having quotas. Well, darling, if you don't have quotas, you're not in anything. Because certain elements, if you control the citizenship by investment, as it is now, and there is no quota for you to get anything, you can get nothing. You will get nothing. You will end up, as you say, like the federal government. You will get nothing. So while people may say that is why we had independence in 1983 and not in 1975. All right then.
Well, thank you very much. You made a very strong point about knowing our history, teaching about our leaders. How many Nivisians know, for instance, that Sim Daniel and his men from the NRP fought for 2 days at Lancaster House in England to get the word "and" inserted? Presumably, others wanted it to be St. Kitts Nevis, as if it was one country. And Sim Daniel and his men insisted that the word "and" is inserted in the name of the country.
Yes.
That was told to me by U.L. Swanston and Ron Liebert. So you have to understand the history. You have to understand the context and how we evolved as a country. We've got another caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome to our Independence Edition.
Yes, Mr. Manners. I have to call, but every time I hear about this clause 113, that clause should have never, and I emphasize never, been in the Constitution the way it is written. If there is a 113 that benefits Nevis, it has to be a 113 or similar clause that benefits St. Kitts. If you want equality and equity. Okay? Because guess what? Look at what happened on the 10th of August 1998. The late Van Samuel was premier attempted to evoke that clause to destroy the country. I'm saying each.
You're listening to your radio, caller.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, caller, but just to interject here, Section 113 is an exit plan. Okay, and it is what it is. You know, it's not designed to create social cohesion between the two nations. It's an exit plan, and so the founders of the Constitution, they knew what the intention was. Okay, we have a federation. We have two islands together. They have to form a government. Okay, with Nevis having some autonomy to manage certain affairs within a particular context, and that is the NIA. And we know how hard the Nevis Reformation Party fought coming out of the Christina disaster in 1970 for Nevis to have a Nevis Island administration to deal with administrative affairs, and the Constitution clearly outlines what the NIA.
If I should interrupt, please. You and I don't differ on much, let me understand. But you and I definitely differ on the existence of Clause 113, the way it is written. If you want equity, St. Kitts must also have the equivalent of a 113.
Yes, but what I am saying is that it's not designed to create equity. It's designed to create an exit plan in the event, just as we had on Anguilla when we had the federation between St. Kitts, Nevis, and Anguilla. Anguilla was able to exit and go back to Britain.
Must also be allowed as an exit plan. Whatever is given to Nevis must be given to St. Kitts. Or we're going to have continued confusion. Okay? The Constitution is flawed. It should be replaced, it should be rewritten. You cannot give any one state in a federation a benefit that the other state or states don't have. We want equity. And the best example that I want to draw on of a federation is the United States. It is the United States. Each of the 50 states has a government that looks after state matters. The federal government looks after interstate matters and the cross-state borders and that kind of stuff. All right? We cannot continue to oppose the existence of 113 the way it is written. St. Kitts must be given something equal. If Kitts want to get out of the federation, then fine. But to have a constitution with a clause that pretty much guarantees the destruction of the country, I have a problem with that.
Okay.
Unity.
Okay, caller.
All right, caller. We take your point.
Or give St. Kitts an equivalent as well. That's the point I want to make.
Okay, thank you, caller. Clearly, we have to evolve. Now, he evoked the name of past Premier Van Samry, and you mentioned we're not teaching our history. I contend that the present leadership of the CCM and of the NIA is giving Van Samri a bad deal. For the last, well, not last 3 years, because there was an interruption because of COVID, we have brought high-price Jamaican reggae artists here, ostensibly to pay homage to our national heroes. I don't know how you do that. We like reggae music. I'm sure you like reggae music. But for 3 years, the leadership have said we're bringing in big bands to pay homage to our leaders. That, as far as I'm concerned, is to give some entertainment to people. I don't know how that shows homage. And as I said with J.D. Keynes here last week, 5 months after his passing, there's an independence celebration. He's the only 2-time Premier of Nevis. And you're not getting the school children involved in, say, an essay competition, a short story writing competition. Not even an attempt to say that this concert that they were bringing in was tribute to the man who founded their political party. I don't understand it. So there has to be methods beyond the school's curriculum to teach our history. There must be a concerted attempt, and it must start with the leadership.
Certainly, Steve. I really do not wish to spend a lot of time on that, because certainly that is a matter for the Concerned Citizen Movement Party and how they wish to honor one of their past leaders.
He's not one of their past leaders.
Yes.
He's a 2-time Premier of Nevis.
Certainly.
So he belongs to all of us.
I do get that point, but what I am saying, how the government really choose to honor him, and if they do choose to honor him, I think really that is a matter for them. Quite frankly speaking, my issue with the concert, the Freedom Concert, is really the timing. Okay, the timing and looking at priority. Now, one of the callers would have mentioned that, and I think perhaps you yourself alluded to it, that in the northern part of Britain, where you have perhaps some, persons who are struggling economically, they were looking at the cost of the state funeral for the Queen, and perhaps putting that debate as to whether the money could have been better spent on assisting some persons who are in need. And the same can be said here in Nevis if we were to use the same scenario and perhaps make the same comparison, because here it is in a time where we are just coming out of a pandemic. We have the cost of the cost of inflation. It's really high due to the war between Russia and Ukraine, and then here it is in the midst of this independence celebration. We were supposed to have a freedom concert. I'm not sure what really happened to it, if it was cancelled, postponed. I really have not heard it.
Well, the last performers left the island today.
Yes.
And apparently they're working out some arrangement to come back at a time which is convenient to both parties.
Yes, and so the point that I am making is that whether in this time and looking at the time in our independent state, and celebrating 39 years, where the theme and the message really is to redesign and refocus and recreate, whether a freedom concert should have been priority at this particular juncture. We have so many adversities and factors that are affecting the state of our economy. For us to take up money as a nation coming out of a pandemic, not fully out of it yet, we are basically in a world recession because of the war, whether that was the ideal thing to do. And this is what I want people to understand. Yes, I know we all love to be entertained, we love freeness, we love to go out there. I myself love to go out and enjoy music. I would love freeness in the sense that you didn't have to pay for the concert, but of course we know the taxpayers would always have to pay for it, because at the end of the day the revenues come from the taxpayer. We live in a society and in a country where our existence is dependent on tax collection, and it is what it is. So here it is. We would have seen an increase over the past couple of months, increase in our fuel surcharge. We heard people crying out. We have a solid waste tax on our water bill that, you know, we still have in existence today. The cost of inflation in the supermarkets, the prices keep going sky high, and all of these things. So I am simply saying, whether as prudent thinking citizens on this Independence Day, if we are talking about recreating and redesigning, if it made sense, just made sense, I'm just asking these questions, for us to celebrate independence in that particular way. Should that have been priority, or could the money really have been spent in a more meaningful way in terms of assisting persons who are so desperately in need? For example, small businesses, single parents. And so we have to consider these things, because at the end of the day, it appears that we are not keeping true and fast to even the very message of independence, because we continue to do things the same way. So if you are celebrating under a theme of recreating and redesigning and refocusing, but you continue to spend recklessly, you continue to make things that are not so relevant top priority, then what are you redesigning? What are you reshaping? You're doing the same thing the same way, and so the expectation cannot be nothing less but the same failed results, because you're doing it the same way all the time. And so this is what I want people to consider on this Independence Day. Now, as life would have it, and perhaps God and nature, we were unable to have that concert. But at the end of the day, monies were spent. Yes, it's well and good to say we can have the concert at a later date, but there was a cost incurred, because all of the acts were present on the island of Nevis. They had to come here. They were hosted here, and so those were expenses that were incurred. And who have to pay for that? Nevians. Okay? Nevians have to pay, whether they believe it or not. You have to pay for it. You had to pay for it. You're already paying for it, and you will continue to pay for it. And so this is what I want people to understand, and this is what I talk about when I said that it is time for divisions to elect a government that makes sense, because clearly this one is just not making sense. You cannot think about entertainment. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with entertainment, because surely we could have had entertainment in a cheaper way and perhaps a more cost-effective way. So I'm not knocking that, because of course everybody need an outlet. What I am simply saying, sorry, you have another caller?
Yeah, we've got another caller on the line. Good evening, caller.
Yes, I have a very interesting turn to that question she's asking, you know. We have all heard about the toll that the COVID has taken on the people's mental health. Couldn't you see it as a release? I know the young people will tell you, yes, a break from the stress.
Yes, certainly a break from the stress. But all I'm simply saying is that we have to be mindful, though, caller. A break from the stress could cost us. We can have many breaks from the stress, but it don't necessarily have to cost us, you know, an arm and a leg. We don't have to break an already broken treasury.
In a party.
Sorry?
Parties often have sponsors who just sponsor these things, you know. You should know that you're in a party.
This was not a party function. It was
I know,
sponsored by the Nevis Island Administration, and I can tell you that local artists have been feeling stressed too, and not many of them were included on the roster.
Not many of them.
Very few. They were up in arms.
Well, they should express it when they hear the lineup. Express your disgust. But the truth is, while I agree with you, the point is this: the people who are interested in it saw it as an avenue of release of the stress. Because then tomorrow morning after the show, the prices remain the same. They remain the same. So if they didn't have it and they gave them the money, they would still be in the same hole. You know? So maybe what they should do, instead of hiring all of these expensive artists, hire as many local as you could. You know, with one or two between them.
Yeah, yep.
That would reduce the cost. But to just cancel the event, I think is in terms of our mental health.
No, it wasn't cancelled. It got rained out.
I know it got rained out. It's the same thing. You know, but think about it that way. Stress. I mean, people in St. Kitts were lining up to come over. People see Nevis as a place where you could let off your stress.
Okay.
So one other point that this is also another consideration of the well-being of the people of Nevis and St. Kitts. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, caller. Now, don't get me wrong. I do not dispute that. There are many different means and avenues where people can release stress and excel. I'm just simply saying it's the order of priority, because I mean, you talk about mental health, but how about having a mental health institution? How about spending some resources, those same resources that you're going to spend one night on entertainment? Nevis does not have a mental health facility to deal with mental health. And so what is the point, really? How does that help stress? Yes, you go and you entertain for an evening for a couple hours and you're able to drink and socialize, but at the end of the day, okay, that is not going to take away the mental health issue that we are not equipped to deal with in the first place. So it really doesn't make sense, caller. So I hear you, but I disagree with you. I am simply saying that we have to think about priority. What is priority? And we have to be purposeful. Now I hear about the private sponsors and what have you. Of course, I will not know the specific details of those things. They are not published. Okay, I did not see that the event was sponsored by any private party. It says NIA. Okay, that is what it says. But at the end of the day, right, what we must consider as a people, as a nation, going forward on this Independence evening, if we are talking and we are serious about refocusing, recreating, redesigning, this is Independence 39, we cannot go into Independence 40 with the same mindset. Okay, we have to make some significant changes. You can't continue to do things the same way all the time without purposeful thinking, planning, organization, without looking at priority, because we must have an order of priority and expect different results. It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. And this model and style of governance that we have in Nevis, it is not working for the people. People are suffering more under this present administration. Okay, we have our economy is basically stagnant. You talk to people in the civil service, senior persons, they will tell you, listen, the NIA is bankrupt. When you look at the budget debates, I mean, those of you who pay attention to these type of discussions and debates, deficit year after year, and it continues. So where is the hope? You don't see any avenue for new sources of income and revenue. You have increased expenditure, and then the only model that I see this government has presented is the taxation model, revenue generated from taxes. And so I am simply saying to the nation this evening, on this our 39th anniversary of independence, that we have to start thinking as if we want to go somewhere. We want to take the country forward. Okay, we have been at a standstill, to me, for far too long in this country, and it is now time for us to move on. So I wish to say happy independence to everyone, I wish to thank you, Steve, for coming out on this holiday and for us to be able to have a show. And I want to thank all of the callers who called in and participated and made the discussion a very meaningful and engaging discussion. Thank you so much. I wish to say to all those who are tuning in via the radio or the internet, Facebook, what have you, thank you so much for joining us on Your Voice with the Nevis Reformation Party this evening. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much for coming out. We're at the top of the hour. This has been a special edition for Independence 39. I really wanted to ask you, since you're an independence baby, which since you will turn 40 as the nation turns 40, what you would like to see happening in the next year. But we'll save that for another time. Thank you so much. And for all our callers, you've been brilliant tonight. And we wish the nation the best of health and the best of wealth going forward. Good night.
Your voice, your voice, your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.